What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined today by a special guest. This is TJ here, a film expert. He's going to break down the X's and O's with me on Jaxson Dart. We're going to take a look at some clips from his two starts so far this season, go over the good, the bad, the ugly, and discuss how the New York Giants can maximize their young rookie quarterback. TJ, thank you so much for joining me. How are you doing today?
Anthony, doing great. Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate finally get a chance to link up with you guys.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm really excited to go ahead and take a closer look at Jaxson Dart. We've done some film breakdowns on him. We've actually done a lot of collegiate film breakdowns on him. We did a lot of film studies on the channel, some of them live on the channel too, looking at him at Ole Miss. And I became a big fan of Jaxson Dart very early on in the pre-draft process. And as we went along there, a lot of Giants fans caught up, and eventually the Giants did too. Really excited to see him in Big Blue. But before we get into this film, I just want to get your first impressions of him, through these two games. What have you seen from him that you really like? And then what do you want to see him clean up?
First thing I think of is fearlessness. He really doesn't have a sense of self-preservation, especially taking on blockers in the run, getting his legs involved, getting his team fired up. The one thing I love, speaking maybe so much that game within the game on the field, and as a Browns fan, it kind of hurts a little bit more, especially recently, is that he reminds me a good deal in a sense of a rookie Baker Mayfield. Um, some things obviously with the football, but also too how I see him essentially playing with his teammates on the field, especially kind of that firing up to some of the runs, some of the passes. I have a positive impression and I see improvement. And I mean, there's more to be done, but so far it's pretty all right.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've made that Baker Mayfield comp as well, and fans love that comparison. Just got to hope, he can reach those heights. Baker Mayfield's a pretty good quarterback. So we'll go ahead and dive into the film and get it going here. So we've got first
So
play. Why don't you break this one down for me?
absolutely. So this would have been coming up second drive. If this play looks familiar to G-Men and Nation fans, it's because it's pretty much the exact same design and concept, minus some of the halfback motion to quads that you guys connected with Greg Dulcich in the preseason against the Patriots. I don't believe he's on roster anymore. I believe he's with Miami. But the concept is pretty simple, Red, where you're looking to exploit the overhang defender. In this particular case, it would be if the weak safety is buzzing down, you're attempting to sneak a backside post behind him as he comes to pick up Cam Scatterboo. I'm going to let this run a little bit real fast. Sorry for the large cartoony option. I'm going to slow it down. But the read basically just goes high to low, 1-2. The safety steps down to take Cam, which he exactly does. 5th foot plants, bam, out, skinny post back inside. Let these big bodies work essentially like basketball, box corners out, especially when these corners start in, off coverage into the outside. You're a 5'11", 190-pound corner. Dart sees this. He sees this pre-snap formation. He likes what he wants to check into, and he gets exactly what he wants, especially when this boundary safety rolls down. This is a great example of, again, reading high to low, 1-2, maximizing the concept, being aggressive vertically, and then beating that field safety from rolling over to the strong high side. That was the first thing I had seen, really just kind of skipping around to random plays because I kind of wanted to go in blind just for fun at first. Sometimes starting at the beginning and the end can be a little boring. And that was quite literally the first thing I saw. And I'm like, hey, I've seen this before. This was that preseason snap to Greg Dulcich. I don't necessarily have a cut up to it, but it's all over YouTube. Again, this was an example of what I wanted to see with a young quarterback not immediately working to the wheel with Cam Scatterboo, but being more aggressive, driving that ball downfield, getting those big bodies involved, especially the tight ends. I've been really preaching about how the G-men need to go back down to 12 personnel. And your coaches really kind of, I think, saw that themselves. And that's a lot of what I saw this week.
Yeah, definitely. They had a lot of success early in this game against the Saints with their tight ends. Theo Johnson and Daniel Bellinger both got really heavily involved in those first two drives. And then after that, not so much. And there wasn't so much production from the Giants offense from that point on either. And I don't think that's necessarily a coincidence. So I like the way you broke this down. And, I think on this play too for Jaxson Dart, one of the things that I've been preaching is he needs to play in a rhythm and he needs to play, in a structure in order to hit these throws that are comfortable to him and familiar to him from what he saw at Ole Miss. And I think on this play, the Giants do a good job of scheming that up for him and letting him, like you said, 5-step drop and then boom, immediately he rips it out into a tight window. So I love the way that Jaxson Dart plays with poise, and I don't think that he sees any window that's too small for him. And so I think when you give him opportunities like this, he will take advantage. And this is definitely one of the most impressive plays that I've seen from him so far through the 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's again scratching the surface of the potential. Really, the big knock is the consistency. But when you see things like this, maximizing the personnel, maximizing the concept, getting tight ends, backs, your slot receivers involved, like I said, it shows a great deal of potential. This was a concept that you guys have been trying to connect on, especially with Russell Wilson for weeks 1 through 3, quite a bit. And again, you guys may not have come out on top on this game, but you guys connect on a couple of these concepts throughout this week. I have another one, and I know Giants fans are a little bit, maybe a little bit brash right now with Coach Dable, and I understand there's some uproar. You want to see a little bit more from the rookie quarterback. Things are raining, but if there's one thing I can give to you guys is that I see the effort the coaching staff has put in, both to cut down the playbook, the fat, and to help maximize the playbook given to a rookie quarterback who was looking a little bit overwhelmed at times. And really the first game with the Chargers, despite coming out on top as a passer. And like I said, there were some steps forward this game. Now, this was a little bit later on, previous drive. You guys are running some great RPO looks. You're doing exactly what you wanted to at the start of the year with Russell Wilson, just with Jaxson Dart. And that is playing to their strengths, which is the interior running game, setting up the interior running game, and passing outside. You guys want to set up a lot of these single high looks because the strengths of a rookie quarterback and the strengths of a 5'10 quarterback in a way kind of align, as do the weaknesses. You don't really want a 5'10 quarterback passing too much over the middle. We've all seen where, especially just previous year in Pittsburgh, where Russ was struggling. I don't want a rookie Jaxson Dart who's still working to find his rhythm, his chemistry, not always trusting his eyes, especially against these 2 high safety rotations, which one's buzzing down, maybe you have a corner sitting flat, split field coverages. You really want to try to more clearly define what these quarterbacks see, again, the rookie and the shorter quarterback, by developing that interior running game. That's one of the biggest reasons, if not the biggest reason, why you drafted a bruiser like Cam Scatteroo. Like, you want to establish your identity by being nasty, new tiki. And then you want to set up your one-on-ones outside, especially Sands, Malik Neighbors. This is very, very similar concept, post wheel, except you add in a little bit of flavor to it from under center. You bluff, strong side ISO, really nasty design. You release the up back tight end through the A-gap, who ends up just taking the wheel. And the post clears out the strong side corner and holds the high safety, and you connect on it. Now, granted, it wasn't a touchdown, but it put you right on the doorstep. When I go back to saying that this coaching staff has looked to take a handful of concepts and window dress them as much as humanly possible, this is just another example of this. Adding in that extra cheese with that return orbit motion to freeze the backside corner to hold the high safety. These are really, really great designs. It's a copycat league, and you see where the coaches and the assistant coaching staff have to be given credit because they've really been digging in the bag over the course of last week to try to generate more offense. But that's just, again, another concept of coming right off of that, a post wheel, except from under center with a really, really strong play fake from 12 personnel.
Yeah, and I'm really happy to see Jaxson Dart get under center and make some of these throws. That was something that some fans had concerns about going into the season. Could he handle an NFL-style offense versus when he was at Ole Miss running a lot of, something that's more collegiate and rudimentary in many ways, with heavy RPOs and shotguns and pistols. But seeing him get under center and make some of these throws is definitely impressive. But on this play in particular, I love the ball placement, putting that thing back shoulder and shielding Daniel Bellinger away from the oncoming safety. That's what really impressed me with this throw in particular. You're right, the play design, I love it. I think it's really clever, especially with Bellinger releasing out of the backfield, lined up as a fullback, but then just hitting that corner route. The way that, or that wheel route, the way that Dart is able to lead him towards the sideline and away from that safety and help his receiver out, I think is really impressive.
Yeah, that's a great observation. You keep him away from that high safety. You keep him away from that play side, second level from that linebacker from recovering. You feather it. You get that nice layering. Yeah, that's an outstanding observation. You let your athlete make the play too. Put it to a spot, let him make the play. And like I said, getting the tight ends more involved. I hate to circle back around to it, but much like Baker Mayfield, where they kind of cut down that offense after Hugh Jackson was excommunicado. I really think this is for the future of the G-Men, at least this year. I think this is a lot of how your offense not only is it going to look, I really genuinely think this is how it should look. Setting up these ball actions, setting up these hard throws off good play fakes, establishing that interior identity, and then really building your vertical shots off that. Because while the offense has shown a little bit more in terms of better efficiency from the Chargers game to this last weekend, where you guys are still kind of having some issues are essentially establishing the vertical passing, the explosive passing, especially on early downs. And if you want to be a consistent offense in the NFL, if you want to have success week to week, you have to be efficient, but you have to be explosive, especially on first downs. We'll just go from this side. So this was the one where I talk about I don't want them to restrain Jaxson Dart's legs. He's not Lamar Jackson, but he's still got a gift. The key is when and where to use it. And I loved this design because of the lack of integrity on the offensive line. Like Van Roten's having a terrible year. O'Neal's having a terrible year. Don't know what's up with JMS at the center. He's making good decisions mentally, but his technique is just it's not there. So when you come off these two high looks and you incorporate bringing a 5'10" bowling bin or bowling ball right through it as your lead, I think it's a great use of his legs on this quarterback draw. And again, it for me, it's Steve Young-esque watching old school 49ers clips. But there was a subtlety too that I love on this because it prevented the overhang defender from getting involved. The proper use, maybe I don't want to say proper, but this is the design use of legs I love, just beyond simple speed option, read option, RPO, and quarterback draw against too high all the way against a light box count. You know, you see too high safeties. You see the strong side linebacker who's got to carry Malik Neighbors. You know, hopefully he gets healthy as quickly as humanly possible. We see a good, promising receiver next year. His first thought, especially thinking, is run fit to cover. He's really got to carry any kind of too high seam, especially if it's cover two. He's really got to carry Malik Neighbors down the seam over to the safeties. So this was probably one of the best calls I've seen on any team this year. The little tunnels, the little subtle sell was also fantastic from Jaxson Dart. I'm going to pause it right here when I say this. The eyes to the overhang, the eyes to the number 3, Malik Neighbors, where you see that strong side safety, where you see this strong side linebacker who has to carry him up the seam, and then you freeze that weak side linebacker, allowing Cam to climb to him on the lead. That's patience. That's what I like. That's that comfort that I like to see, where he's executing plays that he's used before in college, but he's had enough time to work on throughout the week. Cam comes through, cleans this up like an absolute monster. Jaxson does, what he's blessed to do with his eyes, and he follows this. He's untouched. That's fantastic play calling. Again, I love that from your coaches. I know that was the Chargers game, but for me, again, it's the proper use. I want to take advantage of this weapon. I want to take advantage of this gift. I don't want to have him running around like a chicken with his head cut off, but I need to use this. I need to supplement this offense. So the subtle things, again, with his eyes between not only hanging that over, freezing that overhang defender, but also, again, finding his lead, finding his daylight. That's amazing as just being an athlete, being a ball carrier.
For sure. And that being the first touchdown of his career, what I really noticed on that play, outside of what Jaxson Dart did, his legs are a weapon. I saw that on his film at Ole Miss, but I loved what I saw from Cam Scatterbull on that play. And I know Giants fans do too. That block right there. And then there was the behind the scenes where you see him screaming on the sideline. I just hit him in the fucking face. It was awesome. So I love Cam Scatterbull, man. He's instant fan favorite for Giants fans.
He's the mini A-Train. You guys should absolutely love him. I know the knock on him coming out, of Arizona State was that he wasn't that willing blocker. But again, you go back to it. I'm a Buckeye. I've seen great blocking running backs. Zeke Elliott coming out was a great off-ball blocking running back. That is elite lead blocking from your bowling ball running back right there. I know you call them the Aura twins, Dart and Scatterbull, and that right there gets every bit as much hype from people as anything else. When your running back makes a play like that for his quarterback, forget it. O-line loves it too. They're going to be getting some love later. This is just another example of the high percentage throws that to help supplement this offense. You can't run the ball every down, even against two high safeties. You eventually got to show a little bit what's in the bag. These are simple reads and throws right here. It's just a read of the overhang defender, essentially the curl to flat defender. We're going to read based off his movement. We're going to break underneath his movement. We're going to present quick rhythm timing throw. You just spoken about the concepts that he was comfortable with at Ole Miss, Jaxson. This is one of those things you guys have used in 2 games now that I've seen. Again, a read of the strong side backer. He expands to pick up flat, to pick up cam flat. Neighbor sees this, presents, ball's right there, back step drop right there. And here's the thing too, you also get to attempt to develop some yak. You force these corners, you force these DBs in the NFL who don't always want to come down and tackle. They don't want to hit, they don't want to run. You come down and you have to clean up. And you have to clean up against what was one of the best receivers in the game. Again, that's why I'm so excited to hopefully see him back next year at full health, because I think high percentage throws like this, he can really turn something into. All right, so again, attempting to apply things week to week, supplementing the offense. Again, the Chargers, the Saints, the Eagles, they run a lot of these modern two-high structures, and they spin these two-high safeties down, create these shadow games, looks, who's going to be filling gaps and whatnot. But this is an example of the same plays, just more window dressed. Giants come out in a YY set. That's 2 tight ends, the weak side of the formation, the bottom of the screen. And this is a great example of a snag, but then I also want to talk about Jaxson Dart's growth as a passer. He's had flashes of it. It's not consistent, but I broke down a play that you can find on my Twitter where he uses a full field read with a backside levels. This is that play. We're going to push out Cam Scatterbo to cheese the flat defender, and we get this buzz safety to come right down, and essentially you just muddle traffic. You have an aggressive corner at the top, squatting, which means he can recover flat and attack. You have a safety spinning down right over this snag. You have a strong side linebacker sitting right there. This is a very vulnerable position to put any receiver in, and you just can't make it. There's far too much action, far too muddled. Your routes aren't developed. Even against a 3-high, single high shell like this with aggressive corners outside sitting, it almost turns it into essentially like a 2-high shell. I believe it's called these 1/3 squat corners. The Patriots ran them a lot a few years ago at the tail end of Bill Belichick. But this was an outstanding awareness by Jaxson Dart, basically saying, corner, no, strong linebacker, no. I have my backside levels. Let me reset in comfort. Let me reset my eyes back to the middle. Oh, that's right. I'm going to go ahead and find this levels. I'm going to find, I believe that's Bollinger, right?
Yeah, that's Daniel Bellinger.
Bollinger, congratulations. He's crossing the face of the weak side linebacker. That is an example of a full field read. Now, they did integrate these full field read concepts at Ole Miss. I believe he's interviewed as saying, pre-draft that he was a one-read quarterback. He wasn't, and there's no getting around that. Was he amazing at full field reads? No, and there's a lot of evidence, unfortunately, on that tape against Georgia. But this is, again, that little twinkle, that twilight that you can see that growth where you go 1-2, no 2. We're going to go back to our third, and we're going to connect on it in rhythm with great protection from our O-line. We're going to be decisive. That's an example of, again, dressing up the snag. It's not there. We're incorporating the backside levels. I love that. I love seeing that throw. It's a straight drop. You don't have the element of play action, so you know that D-line's coming for you too. The long-term strategy I saw from not only the draft, but when you guys picked up Russell Wilson, and that was, again, build the interior running game. Let's set up a rookie for success by bringing in Russell, who has the same weaknesses just for different reasons. And that is, again, setting up our single high, setting up our single outside. I generally think if Malik Neighbors didn't get hurt, you'd been seeing some crazy stuff right now. I really just saw him start to get going too. That was so upsetting. I'm a football fan first and foremost. I don't want to see good players get hurt, especially when I see them really coming to their own with a young quarterback.
Yeah, the loss of Neighbors was brutal. I don't even know how they're going to – I did an episode about it earlier today talking about this receiving core. It's a disaster. I mean, they don't have guys that can make life easy for Jaxson Dart right now. Life is going to be very difficult, but as I keep saying, we'll learn a lot about him. We'll learn about his ability to fight through adversity and to bounce back from tough blows. So it'll be a learning lesson for him, but also for the coaching staff to figure out what exactly they have. But it sucks that Neighbors not out there, man. That's a rookie quarterback's best friend is a WR1.
Smooth seas don't make good sailors. And the downside is that, Malik is an individual. He would help force a lot of too high structures to his side, even on split field coverages. But what kind of helps, I don't want to say helps, but what offsets that is, unfortunately, 60% of your offensive line is bottom third in the NFL. That right side of the offensive line is one of the worst in the NFL, unfortunately. So half the reason why you're getting a lot of these too high structures, these patient approaches from these teams, is because until they consistently see you winning on the interior running game, which you really didn't start doing that until this Chargers game, no one's going to believe you. They're going to call you bluff. And boy, Malik Neighbors on top of the interior running game really sets that up. This was play to start it off with. This is off that split zone look to the RPO. Tight end, I believe that's, again, 84, and that's not Bollinger, that's Theo Johnson. His entire assignment on this play is to cross over and kick out the backside edge, this linebacker. Cam Skadbu essentially is targeting the play side A to B gap. Now, really, as a coach, you want this play side B gap right here. That's what you want. This jump cut is fantastic. This is why you don't want your running backs to be, super tall. 5'10 is fantastic. Like I said, built like a running back. This is what things that get him into rhythm as a ball carrier, stuff as a coach, looks that you haven't shown. Are we going to run split zone out of this? Are we going to be running max protect? How are we going to be protecting our quarterback? Are we going to be running straight drops off of this? There's a lot of subtleties to be found, even though I know it doesn't look like a grand amount of changes. Like I said, things that give me a little bit of confidence in the coaching staff. This next play built off of it is an RPO look. And really to kind of preface this at the bottom of the screen here with Malik Neighbors, it's an RPO based off of a pre-snap read between a box count, which is 2 high safeties right here. You really be looking for run unless you have somebody aggressively step down. But then also you're going to eye the the glance side X, Neighbors. You'll have an adjustment on RPOs. Receivers who get cloud, you tend to want to, and you're going to shoot vertical because you want to beat cloud and then essentially beat the play side safety, or at least get isolated on the play side safety. That means that corner is going to be sitting there attacking run fit. If you read off coverage as a quarterback and as a receiver, you're going to be breaking that under. That is the more classic things that we see, especially when you see these single high coverages. This kind of speaks to some of the work that you need to see done between where Jaxson Dart identifies, again, the 2 high and the post-snap decisions on the RPOs that maximize these efficiencies. Even with this safety stepping down and this corner bailing, you have a corner starting an off cover, you have a corner starting on man, but he's an outside shade, which means you're not going to release vertical into that boundary safety. You're going to have to work outside. That completely disrupts the timing of an RPO, which means Jaxson Dart should have kind of had it in his head to begin with that, hey, if this box count stays light, I'm handing this ball off. Because you really don't want to see your receiver have to work all the way around and get squeezed to the sideline by a corner. Now, very advantageous. You guys picked up a flag on this. Fantastic. Malik's hard to cover. But like I said, when you see this safety sitting high and you see a corner pre-snap inside eye, knowing that receiver's got to work around him to get vertical, to get upfield, you really got to hand that ball off. These are the little things for efficiency. This was something I was talking about following it up, though, where Theo Johnson, your tight ends, I want to see more 12 personnel. But if you're going to have them in the backfield, I need to see smarter decisions from your blockers, that is. And let me kind of explain this. We call this tank right. We build it off a vertical zone. And essentially the play side read is on this defensive tackle right here, the 2-eye. If he's interior, and this is where I leave my read to my backs, and I don't have to overcomplicate things in the running game. If he stays interior shoulder and attacks interior shoulder, I want my running back to attack this B gap. Most every coach really wants to attack B gap, whether it's play side, weak side or strong side. So if I see this defensive tackle, this play side nose here, shoot inside, Van Roten's going to carry him and turn him inside. And 84 again, I believe that's Theo Johnson, should immediately have in his head as the up back to break this and essentially treat it like strong side ISO. I'm going to be attacking this strong side linebacker right here. This influence from the offensive line pulls down the middle linebacker, pulls down the weak side linebacker. You're not going to have to deal with him. So you end up getting this hodgepodge of play calls, and then you sometimes get the O-line confused and the lead blocks. They're not used to this sort of thing. You have to install these during the week. And that really kind of hurts, again, the efficiency of your running game. But you also now have to question your pass protection out of these same formations. So these were the 2 big things I wanted to talk about right there, between the efficiency of the RPO. You can see it right here, the outside leverage from the corner, the 2 high safety. This should have been give all the way from Jaxson Dart, But then also, again, the blocking integrity from your up backs, your tight ends. I know they're not used to that sort of thing. I know that's not their game. But if you guys are going to advance a little bit further as an offense, somebody's going to have to get nasty as the up block, or sorry, as the up back blocking. If it's going to be Theo Johnson, so be it. He's going to get his hands dirty. He's going to make a paycheck. He's going to be on this roster. But if he's going to be the up back, Bollinger is going to be the up back. We got to learn how to read blocks based off of influence and then based off play side tackle. So again, we call this tank right. He's getting pinned inside the play side defensive tackle. Theo should have immediately, broke that play side B gap. This would have been a big hitter right here just for an easy efficiency run. Cam is still an absolute psychopath. He went looking for contact, though. Like, I love this. I love watching this kid. I'm a Browns fan. I'm so happy we have Quinshon Judkins, but probably right now my next favorite rookie running back to watch is Cam Skattebo. This kid's incredible.
Skattebo's a lot of fun to watch, but so is Jaxson Dart. And a lot of these clips that we went through here, I think were really telling with certain things, tendencies in his game, some of the schematics that the Giants are putting together in order to make life easy for the rookie quarterback. Like I said, it's not going to be easy for him. The Giants don't have a ton of talent on this offense, particularly at wide receiver. The interior of the offensive line isn't particularly talented either, but I do still think Jaxson Dart's talent is shining through so far through 2 starts. And now he's got a big test on Thursday Night Football versus the Philadelphia Eagles, then the Denver Broncos after that, and then the Eagles. So it's going to be a nice 3-game stretch here. Hopefully, TJ will be able to have you back on soon, maybe after this 3-game stretch, and we'll review where we were after these 2 games. And after those 3 games, we kind of put it together, compare and contrast, and see where his growth was at. But nevertheless, thank you for joining me and helping me break down this film today.
Hey, thank you so much, man, for having me. I'd love to jump back on any other time. It's ball. I'll talk shop anytime, anywhere. Again, thank you so much for having me, and hopefully the G-Men Nation appreciate and we enjoy what we did here today.
Of course. I know I appreciate it. So thanks again, man. And to everybody listening, make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. TJ, before we get out of here, where can the people find you?
So Twitter, TJRT9S. You can find me on there. Unfortunately, it's been a little bit dry the last couple of weeks. Life's been a little bit busy. I've got a waterfall of content coming up. YouTube, same thing. Run the 9. I'm a Browns fan. I try to do a little bit weekly on them, but for the most part, I'm going to try to get over the entire NFL because there's just so much good football, so much fun football to watch.
Absolutely. That's for sure. This has been a really good season, too, just for general football. Not for the Giants, that's for sure. But for general football, I mean, there's not like a clear runaway favorite in either conference right now, which is exactly what I like. I want to see all those teams in the group and in the mix together. So it's been fun. It's been a good season so far. But again, guys, appreciate everybody tuning in. Thank you, TJ, for joining me. We'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one. And let's go, New York Giants.
Take care, guys.
Perfect.